Welcome to Soul Awakening with Sandra. I'm glad to see you back here. This is a sacred space, and I hope that you feel comfortable enough to go on a journey with me. It doesn't have to be my journey, and it doesn't have to necessarily be your journey, unless you want it to be. In the past few videos that I've been putting up on this sacred place, I've been talking about the ego's playground. The place where the mind gives ego permission to play. But, you know, we could keep going on and on about all the different playgrounds and all the different titles of the playground that ego gets permission to play in. But we'd end up probably having a very large video library. So I'm going to change it up. And we're going to talk about labels. Because that's also where the ego can play, and you not know that the ego, which is the mind's persona, and eventually the mind and the ego persona want it to be your persona. But you have a choice. You have a choice. If you're already in this space, you're already taking a journey of exploration into the relationship between you and God or source, whatever the noun that you want to call that higher power that's the creator of everything. And you already know that you do have a free will choice. Now, there may be others that are tapping into this beautiful safe space and trying to figure out, why am I being called? What's my purpose? How come I'm here? You know, why is life freaking fucking with me? That whole scenario. These are all questions that everybody has, whether you're awakened and called and heard your purpose, but you don't know how to get there from where you've been at, or you're just seeking what could be next for you. You haven't made a journey yet, but you're just seeking it out because you're curious. And that's okay, because curiosity helps open the doors to what you need to know about your body, mind, and your soul. And learn about what your mind calls its ego. So we're going to talk about labels. Labels that have been with us in our subconscious since we were born, right? All those labels, religious labels, labels that came from old dogmas and old stories and old paradigms that no longer serve us, but we still have that label. Inside us, inside our subconscious, there's little mini me's. I like to call them avatars, right? Little versions of you that are carrying around a label with an old story behind it. And it's there primarily, if you're not observing it, it's there to keep you in place if you decide to color outside the lines, step outside the prefabricated box, or the imaginary bubble that your mind has surrounded you with. And again, in any other video that you might have seen from Soul Awakening with Sandra, your mind is not your enemy. It might not be your best friend, but it's not your enemy, and you can't get rid of it. You were born with it. Your mind, the consciousness and subconsciousness of your mind was a gift from God. You were created with it for a purpose. You were created with it so that you could observe it and you could make choices based on the information that your mind was taking in for you. And your mind should have been judgmental, less judgment, and more just presenting it so that you could have a free will feeling about it. And if that feeling wasn't the greatest feeling, You got to use your emotion to feel it out, let it flow through you, and tell your mind, I observed that, I didn't like that, what's next? And that includes labels. All kinds of labels. We've got people who call, we label each other as men and women because of our body parts. We label each other men and women because we can make babies. We label ourselves men and women because we like this sexual exploration, and sexual exploration can only happen between a man and a woman. Those are labels, and those are judgments. Not validated judgments, only perceptions or preceptions by somebody who created the label in the first place. And who knows, they're long gone, but we as human beings keep perpetuating them. We keep them floating for us. Why? Because our mind likes comfortability. And there's comfort in labels. Labels are linear. You go from one part of a label to another part of the label, and you have no excitable areas. I say, my soul gave me excitable areas, unexpected areas. Everything is as it should be, according to your mind and according to your ego. Ego loves a label. It loves to call itself by a label. So if you say to yourself that you have a lot of anxiety, then there's that label. I'm anxious. And your ego taps into it. So we have all kinds of labels. I mean, I was talking to my granddaughter, and we were talking about the generational labels that were put on each generation based on when they were born and what the cycle is till the next set of generational babies was born. And there were some labels that I didn't even know. I didn't even know that there was a generation called the greatest generation, or a generation called the silent generation. We primarily knew baby boomers and Generation X and millennials, that kind of thing. But it's a label. And for the most part, everybody fell into that label. When you awaken, yes, you might move away from labels. I moved away from labels. But each journey, each person's awakening is different depending on what they're called to do. And the only way that you know what you're called to do is if you're tapped into soul, body, and mind, or mind and body. A lot of people didn't know that they were not just soul, that they're body, that they're mind, or they're not just mind, that they're body and their soul. Because we've had all these labels put on us. Yeah. The label also can be a way of hiding the playground that your ego plays in. If you're caught up on the label, some people think that the label means you're better than someone else, or you're lesser than someone else, depending on the label. And we've had some labels that label people some awful things. But nonetheless, that's where your ego can play. And once again, if you're not the one observing you, your body, your mind, your ego, then your body and your mind and your ego are going to run amok. As Winnie would say in Hocus Pocus 1 and 2, amok, amok, amok. Yes, that's exactly what your mind and your ego and your brain. Your brain is a massive, massive computer. It has files on you that you didn't even know you had. But if you're observing and you're bringing your your mind and your ego forward and telling your mind, I'm observing it all. So I get to sift and sort through everything that's in my area. Mind, body, soul, and ego. If the ego is going to give you a label, then you better damn well know what the label is. It's part of your spiritual growth. No matter how far you get in that spiritual growth. And the labels don't only extend to the religious to the spiritual journey. It's also about personal and professional, family, business. There's labels everywhere. And someone somewhere wants you to fit into a label. Right? You know, I didn't even know that quote unquote baby boomers was a label. I mean, eventually it caught up with me, you know, as I got more mature and realized, oh, that's just a label, you know, whatever. I'm just being me. Especially because I didn't like baby boomers being attached with, I had to conform to age. I didn't want anyone to say, oh, you're a baby boomer. You were born in so-and-so, and this is what you should do, and blah, blah, blah. And you might as well get ready to sit on a couch and waste away because, oh, quote unquote, you're old. Old and young is another label. We human beings are full of labels. Full of them. And who, the probably the first man and woman ever to embark on the scene of spirit being having a human incarnation, kind of tried to figure it out. The mind had to figure it out because the spirit wasn't telling it anything yet, so it decided it had to take charge. And the only way it knew to do that for us is to keep us safe, you know, safe away from large animals, you know, safe from, you know, small animals, keep us safe from the weather, keep us safe from, you know, figuring out fire, the whole kind of kit and caboodle of safe, you know, fight, flight, or resist, pretty much. That was our mind. That's what it figured its job was. And if we weren't going to stay safe, whatever we were thinking about, it was going to take what we were thinking about, and if it was just a minute little mole, it was going to make it into a big molehill. Or if it was a molehill, it was going to make it into a hill. If it was a hill, it was going to make it into a mountain. The perception. And because it wasn't showing us another opportunity or another way to do it and giving us only that option, that's what we fell into. So what is your label that you're hanging tight to? That's my question. We all have them. What is your label? And why are you clinging to it? You're the one that can observe your mind. You're the one that can tell your mind, hold on a second. Let me observe that. Is it for my greater good? No, I don't think it is. So delete and upload something new that's for your greater good. So tune in and tap into yourself. Be who you are. Be authentic in your journey. Whether you're at the beginning of the journey or whether you have traversed all of it and you're just settling in to thinking that you're done. You're never done. You just got to see the journey a different way. So in this sacred space, I want to say, I love you with authentic love. The love of consciousness, the love of wholeness, with the love of the law of one that is everything for you. Be safe, be happy, be loved, and be a creator.